talking about, and that is no longer even.
I'm trying to get her on, just trying to get her on.
So it's Mr. Vernon Martin.
Oh, yeah, hell yeah, I'm gonna sue you for $1 million. Oh,
Can you get this meeting over first? What you need to do is give him the pinky, Zaffer.
Next time I come down, I call you. They put that animal in.
This meeting of the Escambia County Board of Adjustment for February 16, 2022 is hereby called to order. With 4 members present, we have a quorum. Will the clerk please swear in members of staff?
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Members of the board, copy of staff's resumes have previously been provided and remain on the file for reference. The board has previously recognized as expert witnesses. Does anyone have any questions regarding their qualifications and abilities to serve and offer expert testimony? Seeing none. The BOA meeting package for February 16 with Development Services staff's findings of fact has previously been provided to board members. The chair will now entertain a motion to accept the BOA meeting package into evidence. Do we have a motion?
I'll move we accept it into evidence, Mr. Chairman.
A move by Michael, a second.
I second.
Second by Marty. Those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Passes unanimously. Do we have proof of publication?
Yes, sir.
Chairman, and did the publication meet all the legal requirements?
Yes, sir.
Does the publication meet all the legal requirements? I'm sorry, did I ask that already?
Yes, sir, but it does.
Okay. The chair will now entertain a motion to waive the reading of the legal advertisement. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Jennifer. Do we have a second?
I'll second it, Mr.
Second by
Chairman.
Michael. Those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimous. Members of the board, have you reviewed the resume and transcript for the Board of Adjustment meeting held on January 19, 2022? Upon your review of the resume and transcripts, are there any additions, deletions, or corrections? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion regarding the hearing of the resume of the Board of Adjustment held on January 19, 2022. Do we have a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Marty. Do we have a second?
I'll second, Mr.
Second by
Chairman.
Michael. Those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Passes unanimously. Let the minutes please reflect that we now have 5 members with Randy Ponson being present. The Board of Adjustment, BOA, hears administrative appeals, variances, and conditional use requests. These hearings are quasi-judicial in nature. Quasi-judicial hearings are like evidentiary hearings in a court of law, however less formal. All public testimony will be taken under oath, and anyone testifying before the BOA may be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits that the BOA considers are entered into evidence as part of the record. The giving of opinion testimony will be limited to experts, and closing arguments will be limited to the evidence in the record. After hearing the testimony and arguments for and against the proposed action, and before making its decision, the BOA will consider the relevant testimony, the exhibits entered into evidence, and the applicable law. Board, because decisions of the board relating to variances, conditional uses, and extensions of development order for the plan approval are final, unless overturned by a court of competent jurisdiction, the county may issue development orders and permits for properties in accordance with the decisions of the BOA. However, if applicant requests the issuance of such an order or permit, and such order or permit is issued, the applicant and not the county shall bear any risk that such decision may be set aside, the development order or permit may be revoked, or the development may be otherwise enjoined by the reviewing court. Any applicant for relief from a decision of the BOA for said actions, or any aggrieved party as defined by state law, may seek review of such decision by filing an appropriate pleading in a court of competent jurisdiction within 30 days of the BOA decision. The date of the BOA decision shall be the same date the BOA voted at the conclusion of the hearing. Whenever the BOA denies an applicant or application, no new application for an identical action on the same parcel shall be accepted for consideration within a period of 180 days of the BOA decision. Any person aggrieved by a decision of the BOA relating to an appeal of an administrative decision may, within 15 days thereafter, apply to the circuit court for review. Each individual who wishes to address the board regarding a particular issue must complete a blue request to speak form and submit it to the clerk of the board. These forms are located on the table in the back of the commission chambers. You will not be allowed to speak until we receive one of these completed request forms. We must have these completed for public record. All written or oral communication outside of this hearing with members of the BOA regarding matters under review today are considered ex parte communications. Ex parte communications are presumed prejudicial under Florida law and must be disclosed as provided in the Board of County Commission Resolution 96-13 before a decision by this board on any administrative appeal, variance, or conditional use request. The chair would ask, as each case is heard, that any board member who has been involved in any ex parte communication regarding the respective issue to please identify themselves and describe the communication. First case will be conditional use 2022-02, 117 Pace Boulevard, Pace Parkway. Board members, has there been any ex parte communication regarding this case? Seeing none, does anyone have knowledge or information obtained from a site, visit, or other sources? Seeing none, does any board member intend to refrain from voting due to a conflict of interest? Seeing none, would the individuals who are party to this item please come to the podium, identify yourself at this time, please state your name, address for the record, and wait to be sworn by the clerk.
Mr. Chairman, do we have any speakers on this one?
Sir?
Do we have any speakers for this case?
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
no, we don't. No, this first case, no, we don't.
Okay. Staff is recommending approval of this conditional use.
Okay. Does the applicant have any objection to?
No, sir.
Okay. And it might be noted that he's an attorney and not required to swear.
No,
Board members,
it's the applicant.
Mr. Chairman, I'd kind of like to hear a short presentation.
I agree.
Okay.
I've got some questions myself.
Do you want me to just go through the staff presentation, or you want the applicant?
I would like the staff.
Okay. So let's go ahead and go through the map. Sorry.
you want,
Okay, so this is conditional use 2022-02. This is the location map. This is the future land use map of the site. It's mixed use suburban. The 500-foot radius showing the zoning is commercial. That was recently rezoned to commercial. It is in the cantonment community redevelopment area. We don't have any adopted standards for that area, but it is an identified CRA. This is the aerial map of the site. This is the public hearing sign that was posted on site. This is looking west into the site at the entrance, which is on the north end of the property. This is looking south along Pace Parkway and looking north along Pace Parkway. As to the findings, the applicant is seeking conditional use approval to allow for a self-storage facility with boat and RV storage. As to the specific criteria, the first criteria is general compatibility. The proposed use is on a partially developed parcel containing a currently vacant assisted living facility. The site is surrounded by a Gulf Power easement to the west, Pine Street to the north, Pace Parkway, and a vacant property on the east side, and Muskogee Road to the south. Second criteria, facilities and services. The level of service and adequate capacity to serve the proposed use are available and will be addressed during the site plan review process. On-site circulation. The property in question has road frontage along Muskogee Road, Pace Parkway, and Pine Street. The project will need to submit a site plan review process for further review. Nuisances and hazards. Staff does not find any nuisances or hazards associated with the proposed use. E. Solid waste. All on-site solid waste containers will be appropriately located. F. Screening and buffering. Screening and buffering standards will be reviewed during site plan review with regards to compatibility with neighboring properties. All outside storage shall be screened from residential uses as a condition of approval. Signs and lighting. All signs must meet the Land Development Code standards and obtain an Escambia County permit. Any future development will be reviewed during site plan review. Site characteristics. The proposed conditional use is consistent with all other relevant provisions of the code. use requirements. The proposed conditional use would not allow repair, overhaul, or salvage activities associated with the boat and RV storage. In addition, the LDC requires that the outdoor storage be screened from residential uses and maintained to avoid nuisance conditions. Staff findings. Staff recommends that the board approve the proposed conditional use request with the following condition. This project must meet any conditions imposed to the site plan review process when submitting any future building expansions.
Okay,
Board
so my
members.
confusion was, is the assisted living facility gone completely, or is this I think
So-
this used to be 2 parcels?
Years ago, so the building that's on there was originally put there as an assisted living facility way back when.
Was it actually used as an
I do-
assisted living facility?
Or we came through for a conditional use for it as that's what it was. If the applicant wants to give the background history, that would.
This 7.5 acres originally was owned by the mill. This is directly across the street from International Paper. Directly across the street from International Paper. The building that was there was originally built for them. It was an office building where they ran their Woodlands division worldwide out of this office building.
Right.
They also had their credit union, their union hall in that building. The rest of the property, they had a huge greenhouse where they were doing, plant activities. And I think even seedlings for pines, I'm not 100% sure on that. They had a 3,000 square foot greenhouse on the front of this. The assisted living facility, this building has never actually operated as an assisted living facility. I originally, when I bought the property, had intended to, that portion, that northern portion of the property where the building is, had intended to convert that to an assisted living facility. COVID hit. I chose to not continue to pursue that. I currently have a contract with a larger company that wishes to purchase that building. Whether or not, I say a contract, we're in negotiations. Whether or not that actually closes, I don't know. My intentions, which all along I had intended to, on the front portion of the property, on Muskogee Road, to develop a storage facility. Staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but my request actually is not for the storage facility. I don't need that. I have commercial zoning which allows that already. My request is simply for outside storage. In order to do, I intend to put covered boat and RV storage as well. If you want to discuss that, I can, 230 feet to the west, there's a 12-acre parcel the Escambia County School Board uses pretty much for, it has inoperable vehicles, buses stored out there. The mill right directly across the street, needless to say, has numerous stuff, outside storage.
So this entire parcel, you are requesting a conditional use for outside storage on?
That's correct, because it is one parcel.
Okay.
It's always been one parcel.
I thought I read where you had acquired the eastern portion later.
No, ma'am. There's only been the one acquisition when I purchased it. It was
Okay.
one parcel in its entirety, and it's never been subdivided up to this point.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Butler, I failed to get you to state your name and address and be sworn. If you would, sir.
Skip Butler, 3044 East Kingsfield Road, Pensacola, 32514.
And please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thanks, sir. Board members, any other questions of the applicant?
No, I got a question for Drew.
Sure.
I found this odd that in the middle of MDR, low density, and so forth, there's a commercial zoning parcel, zone parcel. If it was owned by the paper mill, I mean, has it always been commercial? What was the historical?
It was just recently rezoned by the county commission from low density mixed use to commercial.
However, the use has been commercial since 1978 and has been listed on Chris Jones' site use as commercial since 1978.
And this had come to the board before as a assisted living facility was a
Right.
conditional use in their zoning at that time.
So even when the paper mill owned that parcel, it wasn't considered industrial.
No, it would have been, I mean, I can try to go back in time and find the previous zoning.
I just thought it
District?
was odd that.
No,
it's-
even in the previous zoning, it didn't go north of Muskogee with industrial.
You are correct. Everything from Highway 29 to west, well west of my property on the south side is zoned
Yes.
industrial. And, you know, the request when I rezoned it might have been more compatible to request industrial, but we didn't need that, so we just requested commercial.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question or two also. Can we go back to the staff's recommendation? I notice in the staff's recommendation, it's not indicated that if this application is approved, that there will not be any outside maintenance or any kind of work performed on these vehicles.
It's the very last criterion. Says the proposed conditional use would not allow repair, overhaul, or salvage activities associated with the boat and RV storage.
And would that be incorporated into the conditional use if we granted it?
Yes, unless, if you adopted it as written, unless you changed it.
Well, also, correct me if I'm wrong, staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's clearly addressed in the Land Development Code as well.
Yes.
So it would be prohibited anyway, and once we got a development order, that would, again, be outlined even more stringently, so.
Yes. Horace Jones, Director. Yes, I mean, that, as Mr. Butler stated and as Drew stated, that is a land development code provision. It cannot be altered. If there's any alteration, and Mr. Butler know he's been doing this a long time, code enforcement will be on top of it wholeheartedly. If you want to adopt it, you can make it sounder, but it's still a set provision of the land development code, a written provision. And through the DRC process, all that would be firmly stated and emphatically stated. So it would, I mean, you really don't have to worry about that being, if you do, you'll be violation of everything that's written inside the land development code.
Mr. Butler, do you intend to have any, use any of the buildings for internal maintenance or repair or anything like that?
You talking about outside the operation of, no, sir, no, sir.
Okay.
No, sir, that'd be disallowed to have
Right.
any outside. I'm gonna develop a storage facility.
And how close there is a budding residential homes, is that right?
No, sir, there's no contiguous, we're bordered by 3 streets and or highways. The main one being Muskogee Road, which is a major freight corridor that the county has established and designated as a major freight corridor. And to the west by a 100-foot Gulf Power easement. Well, I think fee simple, they actually own it. And then to the west of that, on the other side of that is our commercial buildings and commercial operations, you know.
I was just noticing across Pace Parkway, are those lots then, they're not residential?
Those are single-family dwelling residents, yes, sir, just like they're right across the street from the paper mill.
Okay.
Or the golf course on the other side, the former golf course, of which we don't know what will take place there. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Board members, any questions of the applicant or any questions of the staff? The chair will now entertain a motion regarding this item. In your motion, if you opt not to adopt staff's findings, go through each and every criterion and address it.
I move we adopt staff recommendation.
We have a motion by Randy that we accept the staff's recommendation. Do we have a second?
I'll second, Mr.
We
Chairman.
have a second by Michael. Any questions? Those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Butler.
Thank you.
The next case is conditional use 2022-03, 7900 block, Chelly Road. With the parties who are a part of this, oh, well, first of all, has there been any ex parte communications, board members? Seeing none, does anyone have knowledge or information obtained from us, visit or other sources? Seeing none. Does any board member intend to refrain from voting due to a voting conflict of interest?
Mr. Chairman, I have to recuse myself. I work for the engineer of the applicant.
Let the minutes reflect that Ms. Bass is recusing herself and will not be voting. We still have a quorum with 4 other members present. Would the individuals who are party to this item please come to the podium and identify yourself, state your name and address for the record, and be sworn in by the clerk. And you're an attorney and you will not have to be sworn.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you.
Meredith Bush. I am a certified land use planner and an attorney at Clark Partington. My address is 125 East Intendencia, Pensacola, Florida. The engineer of record is also present, Mr. Paul Battle.
Do you want him with you?
Sure, if you want to swear him in as the engineer.
Can go ahead and swear you in if you'd like, sir.
And I would like to bring him, if you can, to, as an expert witness, because he is a licensed engineer.
I believe the board has previously accepted Mr. Battle as an expert.
You want to be an expert witness?
Yeah.
All right. Board members you need any qualifications or anything? He's an engineer. That's,
Mr. Chairman, you've been previously qualified as an expert before us.
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead and move that we accept Mr. Battle as an expert witness.
we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Marty. Those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Passes unanimously.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
You were provided with a copy of staff's findings of fact.
Yes, sir.
And you understand that all criteria must be met in order for the board to grant.
Yes, sir.
Would you like to kind of synopsize the presentation?
Sure. Thank you for your time this morning. So we're here before you requesting a conditional use specifically to allow townhomes in MDR zoning. The property is approximately 55 acres. Under MDR, it's allowed a density of 10 dwelling units per acre. So right now, the applicant could go in and develop this as a subdivision up to that maximum density. What we're requesting is to construct 24 townhomes. There's been an updated site plan submitted. It's just the 24 townhomes fronting on Shelley Road. The wetlands on the property would remain undisturbed. The rear of the property would not be developed by the applicant. We do meet all the criteria, and I'm happy to walk through those at this time. Staff's findings also support that we meet all the criteria, and they're recommending approval. If you would like, if this is the appropriate time for me to walk through the criteria, I'm happy to do that now, or if you'd rather me wait till after staff's presentation.
I'm wondering if it would be better for staff to walk through it. What do you think?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to hear the staff presentation and then come back to Mrs. Bush.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay,
And
thank you.
we'll bring in the updated site plan as well. All right, so this is conditional use case 2022-03. This is our location map. As you can see, it is on the west side of Shelley Road. This is the future land use map for the site. Future land use for that area is mixed use urban. Zoning map for the site. The zoning for the majority of this parcel is medium density residential. There is a small portion that is commercial. This is an aerial map, and I've also thrown in there the National Wetlands Inventory map, which isn't the most accurate in the world, but it does show you that there are wetlands through the center. This site plan has delineated it much better. This is the public hearing sign that was posted on site at the proposed entrance area on Shelley. That's looking north along Shelley Road. That's looking west into the site. And this is looking south along Shelley. If you could pull up the site plan. No. So this project did come through. Sorry. This did come through development review as a pre-application, and that plan, along with one that had been submitted, was the ones that were initially reviewed, and it called for quite a few more townhouses in the front, the eastern side there along Shelley, and called for single-family home subdivision along the western portion there, where those are the uplands. On this site, you can see that the proposed change doesn't include that rear portion. It doesn't cross the wetlands, and is this subdivision of land, which townhouses, you do own the land direct, under your building there. So it is a subdivision. This subdivision is only proposing for 24 townhomes right there against Shelley Road. The rest of the parcel would remain undisturbed through that. What the request is for the conditional uses for the land use approval to allow townhomes. Subdividing the land is allowed outright. They meet the density. It was simply the fact that townhomes are called out as a conditional use in medium density residential zoning. So now I'm going to go to the findings. Okay, first criterion, dealing with compatibility. This development is proposed to have a mix at the time the findings were written. Was proposed to have a mix of single family and townhouse residences in an area of mixed uses. To the east are higher intensity zoning districts along Shelley and Pine Forest roads, and to the west are single family dwellings. The proposed site plan shows the denser townhouse phase on the east side and the single family phase to the west, in keeping with the less dense residential uses along 8 Mile Creek Road. And again, that was published prior to the submittal of the updated site plan. Criterion B, facilities and services for the subdivision are available, and their provision will be confirmed in the construction plan review stage. On-site circulation. The proposed subdivision plan shows access from Shelley Road for both phases. If turn lanes or other improvements are warranted, they will be determined at the construction plan review. Nuisances and hazards. The proposed use should not generate unreasonable noise, glare, dust, smoke, odor, vibration, electrical interference, or other nuisances or hazards for adjoining properties and other properties in the immediate area. Solid waste. The proposed subdivision is within the ECUA service area for solid waste disposal. Screening and buffering. The project will need to be approved through the site plan review process and meet all the following design manual criteria for screening and buffering between uses. once again, where that really comes in is in between commercial uses and residential. The specific use is townhouses, which are residential. Signs and lighting. The proposed signage, any proposed signage and lighting will be assessed during site plan review. Lighting should be directed inward to avoid impacts to adjacent properties. Site characteristics. Based on the applicant's submitted plan for development review pre-application, the size, shape, and location of the parcel will accommodate the proposed use. The southern portion of the parent parcel falls under a 20-year wellhead protection area, and there are indications of wetland features running through the middle of the parcel. Subdivision layout will have to account for these features at the design stage. Again, with the updated plan, that changes. It still meets the criterion. Use requirements. The zoning on site allows for single-family residential use and allows for townhouses through this conditional use process. Findings. Staff recommends the board approve the conditional use as requested with the updated site plan.
Board members, any questions of staff at this time? Would the applicant like to make a comment at this time or reserve yourself for later? And also, would Mr. Butler like to make a comment at this time before we call for speakers? Then you'll be allowed to address questions then.
Sure, I'll just briefly state that, or remind the board that, you know, as a conditional use, it's, if the applicant has met all the criteria, which we have as outlined in the code, then it is a permitted use. We agree with staff's findings. We met the criteria under the more intense development initially proposed. The current site plan under review and being presented is much less. It's only the 24 units. So to the extent that the impacts, you know, there may have been any impact initially, you know, I would just put forth that that's been diminished by the reduction in the proposed development. I'm happy to, you know, walk through our findings, but they pretty much mirror staff's, and you have those in your backup. So given that they're the same and that staff has recommended approval, at this time, you know, we'd welcome the comment or input from the public.
I think perhaps we reserve any comments that the applicant might have for after we have speakers.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions for the staff.
Okay.
Has, how close is this development proposed development going to be to the well line protection area zone?
Let me, hang on, I've got it on a map here. I'm going to pull it up. If you could go back to the aerial, please. Thanks. Can I borrow that back? Sorry. All right, so I'm going to show you on here. So the proposal, the updated, no, let's go to that site plan. It might be easier. Okay, so ECUA's wellhead protection area, where it crosses here, it crosses on this piece of this parcel that's not part of the development, comes up through this area and across the bottom. It's not in the footprint of the proposed townhomes.
So it's,
Let me add to that, and let's understand this, that the wellhead protection area, it does not, there's no distance criteria. The only thing it may depends upon the uses as well as what type of storm water can go in there if that was a factor. So it's not a prohibition per se with subdivisions. There may be some type of different stormwater review requirements in which the engineer record will have to address at that time with engagement in with ECUA. So it's not saying it cannot be there. You just have to hire some other standards to incorporate therein.
Has ECUA been contacted about this?
So ECUA was part of the pre-application site review.
Absolutely.
They've already reviewed the original plan. They haven't reviewed the updated plan, which is, once again, moves anything out of the 20-year contour.
And they didn't have any objections to the plan?
No objections,
Just to the proposed siting of the development?
yes, it's not the pre-application review, they simply provide commentary. If you're gonna be working within that, they're gonna need a wellhead impact report.
So I take it they didn't say one way or the other whether or not they were in favor or opposed to this?
Correct. So generally, if someone is working on property that it does have a wellhead protection area, ECUA will ask for an impact report, and then following that report, they will make their recommendation one way or the other. That report is not available at the pre-application stage. It hadn't been done yet. That was just
Right. And also, and typically, normally, they are not prohibitions. They are not saying they will come with a product. You may have to do this. You may have to do this with your stormwater treatment plan. You may have to do this if it impacts some of they feel like, but it's not a prohibition. It's just you may have to do additional things to meet their criteria so that their board and for the protection of the wellhead. And typically they engage with them throughout the entire project.
I recall in other, if my memory serves me right, in other cases where we had, perhaps this involved a well that was within 1,000 feet or some such distance from the proposed development, and we have not approved those. That kind of development.
correct. That is a completely different standard, a different use. That was a borrow pit.
Yes.
Subdivision of land does not have any kind of prohibition within that distance. When it comes to subdivisions, as Director Jones said, it's going to be more of a stormwater treatment issue. Obviously, if you're within a wellhead protection area, you wouldn't want a sand chimney that would go down and pierce the aquiclude. You wouldn't want to discharge into the aquifer. But as far as just subdivision of land, it's not addressed as a prohibition.
Okay. And if you go back to those photographs of Shelley Road, the road looks to be more like a country lane than, and
County road.
in the pre-development report or presentation, was this considered? The additional traffic that you're going to have?
So in the pre-application, it was reviewed with a much higher number of units and trips on the road than this reduced site plan. If, when the final, the actual submittal comes in, improvements to the road are warranted to the extent that the county can request those, they will be. The county does not have a concurrency requirement with roads. So, if it's county maintained road, it's still a county maintained road. They may ask for right of way, but as far as the overall entire stretch of the road, the county has no requirements.
And I guess one last thing. If this is in the ECUA service district, then it would have sanitary sewer and not septic tanks.
Yeah, so ECUA would require that when they have service available and someone wants to come in and subdivide land, they require them to hook up to that service.
Because you've got a large wetlands area that's on this property, and with increased development with septic tanks is not a good situation.
Correct. There are quite a few with septic tanks within the county in developed areas. But like I said, any kind of new subdivision that comes in that is within the service area is required to tie into sewer.
And from listening to the to the attorney and the engineer record, they are on sewer, so they will have to meet all of the ECA guidelines because they are on sewer.
So they will have sewer in
Yes,
their
sir.
project?
According
Yes,
to
it will have sewer, not septic.
Okay. Okay. That answered some of the things I was wondering about.
Okay, we're going to begin with the speakers now. And speakers, please limit, and you will be timed, your presentation to 3 minutes. If for some reason there's something that you have to go over the time limit, we'll certainly work with you. And the other thing is, if at all possible, if someone prior to you speaking has already said what you're going to say, just say you agree with the former speaker or something to that effect, so that we'll have time to get everybody present who will be able to speak. So as I call your name, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and be sworn in. Darlene Langley.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. I live at 8200 Shelley Road. You see that bottom right block? I'm the yellow block right there. Anyway, I've lived there for 28 years, and we've come down here a couple of times because when they were gonna build the trailer park for FEMA, and they agreed with us, y'all ruled that their access could not come onto our road. And when I was reading the application, and I know the lady or whomever filled it out didn't go down there in person probably and see it, but, and it's in the census also, I think I'm saying that word right, but on page 5, they said along Shelley Road, there are existing residential uses as well as an RV park and a storage facility in the vicinity of the subject property. They're pointing out the different commercial things that would add traffic, but neither one of those facilities enter or exit on our street. The street can't hold it. Like you called it a lane, you accurately called it. And I'll just skip everything else I was gonna say because it was mostly based on the 82. Can I ask, when did that change to 24?
This week. It was turned in after the agenda packet was published.
Okay, all right. When you go to your fireman report on there, it doesn't have a page number on it, but it says up at the top, this is by your specialist, or by somebody's specialist, fire and life safety review comments. On number 3, it says that the fire department access roads shall have an unobstructed width of not less than 20 feet. I don't know of a single part of our street that is 20 foot wide. And we've gotten out and measured, and 17 is about the average. And on 2 or 3 different spots, we have those great big giant oaks like this, which we have brought some pictures since you probably haven't been on our street. And we brought some pictures that you can see what we're talking about if y'all vote to look at that. And if you go on down on that same one, it says down there for the dead end, because Stratford comes in off of Pine Forest and Shelley goes down in dead ends. And down at the dead end, it says that the fire department access road in excess of 150 feet, and it is, in length shall be provided and approved provisions for the fire apparatus to turn around. In other words, they're saying it needs a cul-de-sac. And then the fire department also said at the bottom that they wanted floor plans for the townhomes. But being that everything changed, just to my knowledge, just since I got here, about the 24, those are just my main concerns, is the width of the road.
And let me add something, let me say something right quick. With the DRC process, each one of those reviewers, if someone want to add something, these are the comments that they will have to do. So at this level, this is not a DRC review. This is another review where they had a pre-application. They will have to meet all of those requirements. And during the process, they will be engaging back and forth with the fire safety, back and forth with the engineer, in order for them, if they cannot meet it, they will have to change their design again. So all of those things, those are requirements that the fire safety say based upon the original request.
Yes.
Now, once they come back in with something different, there's still going to be some standards that they got to review. And those subject matter experts that take care of that process, they have provisions. They got to adhere to those things. Access management, fire safety, my handicap people, all of those things, not at this level, that they got to review. So don't think that this board's going to automatically just, no, there's another process which is much more stringent, which much more site specific to the whole area, to the road, to all those things that they got to adhere to if they want to get a final plat approval by the Board of County Commissioners. That's the end game.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So,
I don't know your name, I'm sorry.
Horace Jones, I'm the director.
All right, Mr. Jones, I understand that those are the steps to come and that we're not at that stage, but I also started from the application that your client presented, and that application had false information in it. And a lot of it, they just stated the question and then repeated it, but it wasn't accurate. And that's why I was here. I came to do, and I'm a realtor. I'm all about growth, and Lord knows we need more houses right now. But this road cannot handle it. I've lived there for 28 years, and I have not seen it singled. It has not been repaved. It has only for 28 years had potholes filled, and if you go down my road right now, there is 6 potholes that are huge that have not been paved, and filled in. And I'm not here to pick on anybody. We don't come down here and complain. I haven't come down here and pitched a fit about all the water that after the FEMA park has almost washed my house away, where I have cinder blocks all the way across the front of my house till I blocked my garage because the water comes down like a flood. And from what I've been told, Mr. Long was kind enough to pave the road for us, and it's paved at a V like this because the road wasn't wide enough to have any drainage on the sides, and all that's wonderful, and it works wonderful for everybody on the street, but myself and the commercial lot next to me, for some reason the road has caved in on our side. So the road, because of the FEMA, the RV trailer park, and all the other commercial stuff that takes place down the road, it's coming down perfect. It goes all the way down to the end, but about a good third of it comes through my yard. And so, I don't even have grass. 28 years. Part of that was my fault. I tried to kill fleas and I put rock salt out there. But anyway, I've replanted the grass about 6 times. And it started after each great addition further down the road, and where they've built that the water I need to hush, I'm sorry, but I'm just trying to tell you, if you were to come on my street and just look at it, you would see, and the pictures are okay, but they never are the same as seeing it. It's just literally, but we don't complain. And when 2 cars can't get by at the same time, we just pull over to the side of the road and let somebody else go. We don't sit there and fight for anything like that, but we can't handle much more increased traffic. It's just, the ability for that road is not there. It's just not.
Board members, any questions of the speaker? Applicant, any questions you would like to ask the speaker?
No, none of this one.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to remind everyone, we're here discussing one specific land use. That is the use of the land to be subdivided into townhomes. Once again, as Director Jones pointed out, this is not the development review meeting. If standards are imposed that a project can't meet, it's not going to move forward. This board is not tasked with reviewing transportation, reviewing fire, reviewing stormwater. That is up to the experts in those fields that are part of the development review. This is strictly here to discuss the subdividing of the land into townhomes.
Thank you, sir. Gene Giles.
My name is Gene Giles. I live at 7801 Shelley Road, Pensacola, Florida, 32526.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
I have gotten photos of that road. Folks, the road's the problem. You say it's temporary, or we are here just to address a piece of land that borders on wetlands. I don't know the appropriate name. I'm not an engineer. I'm not an expert. I'm a resident. That appropriate land out there you're talking about is being addressed here and nothing else. Well, what you're addressing is a parcel of land in the middle of nowhere. You can't get there. You can't get to that land without going off of Pine Forest Road, Shelley Road to the north, Loblolly to the north, or Stratford to the south. It is a danger zone. People coming out of Sonny's Barbecue, coming out of the Shell Station, coming out of the dance studio, coming out of all sorts of commercial businesses to the north, go straight across Pine Forest Road during high traffic areas headed for the interstate. They put barriers up there. Those barriers have been destroyed and no longer replaced. They keep tearing them up. People do not obey the traffic laws. The only way you can get to that hidden parcel of land is through Pine Forest and Shelley. That's it. No other way. The Shelley Road will not sustain 3 more vehicles a day. It won't do it. I got information right here, pictures. You want to look at the pictures? There they are. I asked if I could give a PowerPoint presentation. I said they would get back to me. I haven't heard a word. I printed out the PowerPoint. I got 62 pictures in here for each of you. If you would like to look at those pictures or allow me to present them, I would love to. I've given one to each of the residents of Shelley Road. Folks, this road will not handle the traffic. That's simple. You don't have to be an engineer to figure that out. It's that simple. Now, what do we have here? This is a parcel of land in the middle of nowhere that nobody can get to that changed Monday morning. I started writing this stuff a week ago. I've been working on this thing 15 hours a day for 6 days. Ms. Langley's been doing the same thing. What do we have here? The only terms I understand. I don't understand all this official stuff. I'm looking at bait and switch. I understand bait and switch. What we've got here, we're led to believe you're going to decide on certain factors. Now what we've got is it's all changed and I don't have time to do anything about it. Number 2, the zoning change, I understand, will be voted on today. You're going to vote this place commercial, commercial partially, and you're going to change the zone. Now that's my understanding. I'm not an expert.
There is no change to the zoning proposed for this site. The zoning on site medium density residential allows for single family residential and allows for townhouses as a conditional use. That's why we're here. They're requesting that specific use to subdivide it for townhomes.
So we're gonna stay residential.
Yes, sir.
It has nothing
What's
to,
all that red that's got com on it? What's that mean?
that's commercial zoning.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Shelley Road, right there, Shelley Road, red.
So,
Is it MDR or is it commercial?
So what we have to do, there's some.
What we have to do, what's that got to do with this meeting?
Listen to
What
No,
you're
and-
doing in the future,
Sir,
you
listen
got
to
nothing
me,
to do
please.
with this
Sir,
meeting.
Sir, listen to me, please. Listen to me, please.
Okay?
My staff, we would gladly sit down, Drew, to explain the zoning maps. As Drew stated, your property will remain, this parcel in question, will remain single-family, medium distance. We're not addressing anything about commercial at this time. No, sir.
What's the red? I don't understand.
I understand that, but at this point, sir, at this point, it would take more time for me to explain it to you, to give you a full.
So we're gonna go ahead and wait to save you time. Is that what we're saying here?
No, sir. This board understand, but it would take a little bit more time for me to explain to, if you're willing to listen to me.
I will listen to you.
Okay.
Give me time.
Sir, at this time, it would not be in the best area to sit down with you and explain with you the commercial zoning and the red zoning. Commercial, this property, I can tell you this property is not being changed commercial. No, sir, it is not.
I'm not suggesting the property be changed. I'm saying you can't get to it. It's in the middle of nowhere.
Okay, sir, there's no need to yell. There's no need for you to be raising your voice, because I'm not raising my voice. Well, regardless of that, he's still raising his voice.
Yes, sir. I got a loud voice. I'm sorry.
So you need to calm down so that the road will be addressed. If the board, they can discuss that. But right now, your comments was about the road. We heard your comments about the road. You made your point about the road.
Thank you very much.
you.
Board members, any questions of the speaker?
And we can bring the engineer record, if the engineer record wants to come to help, see if he can provide some enlightenment. May not be able to, but provide some enlightenment,
Okay.
if they would listen.
Mr. Butler?
It's battle, but you can, can you go back to the aerial? All right, so the reason we switched is because of the wetlands.
Yes, speak close to the mic.
The reason we switched is because the wetlands were way more extensive than we thought, and in the back, we could not get access for ourselves, but Mr. Vernon Martin, he's a resident in the area. He's gonna build for his family in the rear, and he's got a 50-foot right-of-way he's gotten from a neighbor, Mr. Renner. So there will be access to the property from the rear, for the back half, through a public right-of-way, and the front half, we just can't, it's just too much topography and too much wetlands. That doesn't represent the wetlands. So to salvage the deal, that's 24 units is about all we can get.
And that's the thing.
I have a question, sir. Exactly what do you intend to try to build there?
The rest of the property we're looking at mitigation bank for, you know, when we have some wetland impacts on other projects, if it's in the same drainage basin, we could use the wetlands for mitigation. So it would probably be in conservation.
So in other words, what we're essentially talking about is how many townhomes?
24.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
24.
24, and that the rest of the property is not going to be used for any other type of construction, is that right?
The rear portion would be 5 to 10 homes from a resident in the area and his family members. He's a Mennonite that has a lot of family members. He wants to have his family compound back there.
But I was thinking of commercial development in
We don't
addition
have-
to
There's no
the,
commercial development. We're not zoned for commercial.
No, sir.
no, I meant additional residential development.
We don't plan on any more townhomes.
Well, what
we
about
don't-
single-family homes?
I don't think the topography will allow it. It would have a single, loaded road. It'd just be too expensive to make it work.
Okay, so essentially then, if I understand your testimony, what we're talking about as far as your company is concerned, is simply 24 townhomes, is that right?
That's correct.
And the rest of the property, excluding the gentleman who may bill for his family, the rest would be essentially in the state, the natural state, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Board members, any other questions of this speaker?
I have a question, I don't know if this is for staff or the engineer, but if you were trying to build 24 single-family homes, would we even be here today? Is the only problem that they're smashed together as townhomes?
Yes.
Yes.
Single-family homes are
So-
outright allowed use in medium-density residential.
So if these were single-family, we wouldn't even have a hearing.
Yes, sir.
Got it.
Absolutely. And Mr. Ponson, you said something, thank you, Jude. Honestly and openly speaking, like to be transparent, if it wasn't for the fact that they are doing townhomes, as Mr. Ponson and Drew stated, that this meeting would not even be necessary. They could just go through the development review and a final plat process. But they're doing townhomes, and that's why this board is present.
How do you get to them?
Sir, we're not talking to you at this time. I'll be.
So you're gonna build them out in the middle of nowhere and nobody can go there?
Sir, listen to me. I'm not addressing you at this time. I'm addressing the board. I will be glad to talk to you afterwards. Be glad to. But the board, Mr. Ponson, good question. You are spot on. And thank you, Drew, for that clarification.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christy Preston.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't want to speak.
You didn't want to speak?
No.
Okay.
I'm off for the town.
Jerry Franklin.
Yes, good morning. My name is Jerry Franklin. I live at 8310 Wild Lake Road, Pensacola, Florida.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
My concern is, I had one question for the young lady. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. These will be purchased townhomes? They're not rentals? They are purchased. Okay, so we're talking ownership. Okay.
Sing along.
Okay. I'd like to, and that was just for I needed that information. Okay, I would like to echo the concerns about the size of the highway, the country lane, and even though I live on the very back corner of the proposed property, or on the back corner, I border that. There's a little bit more of an outreaching element there, and okay, you have to think of safety. Okay, people getting in and out of that highway in that neighborhood, coming off of Pine Forest Road, up by off of the north part of Chelly Road. Okay, that's a dangerous place. It's a dangerous place. And then trying to maybe go out, I believe the road's name is Stafford. It comes out by an area there called the Boot Store, I believe is the name of it. Okay, you got to cross there if you want to go north. So obviously you're going to increase the population of this neighborhood. And my concern is people getting safely in and out of there. Right there where there's an intersection on Pine Forest Road and Wild Lake Boulevard, there's accidents there every day. And when you come out on the north part of Chelly Road, you can't cross. There's a restriction for crossing. You have to turn, make a U-turn in and go north. And the reason I know this is I drive the lane all the time. It's a nice little country lane. I love to drive down there. But I do notice that getting in and out of there is difficult. And people that live there need to know what they're getting into when they try to get in and out of that road. And obviously 2 cars can't pass. Okay, and that's already been mentioned. But I just feel like it's important to note that safety is paramount. Okay, if you want to provide a place for your people to live that's safe and comfortable and so forth, you got to look at all the aspects of it. And getting in and out of that community is and safely, that's just a concern of mine. I live on Wild Lake. I live just off Wild Lake Boulevard, or excuse me, Wild Lake Road off Wild Lake Boulevard. I can't even get out of my neighborhood in the morning at 7:30 because the traffic is already backed up past a quarter of a mile down Wild Lake Boulevard, past the Methodist Church there. So I know, I live there, I know the traffic, density, I know the amount of traffic that's there every day. So I just don't want to get caught up in sewage and road drainage and trees beside the road and all that and just totally ignore safety. So I just had to bring that up. So if there's any questions.
Any questions of the speaker? Staff, any questions?
No.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Nathaniel Chase.
Good morning. Nathaniel Chase, 2799 Stratford Road, Pensacola, Florida.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Awesome. Good morning, board members. I am just wanting to take into consideration the fact that they're trying to put in townhouses in the development versus single-family houses. And I'm not an engineer, so obviously this would be a good question for the engineer. But with roof lines with a townhouse, when everything is all joined and you have one roof line, my thought would be that would cause more issues with drainage and water as opposed to single-family home spacing, lawn, single-family home spacing, lawn. And it's built right on top of wetlands. And so I'm wondering if that's going to, if they've taken into consideration the flooding issues with that and how if they're building townhouses on this property right here, Shelley Road is already having drainage issues and how that would impact the wetlands and my house. And I don't want my house being flooded. And so I'm just interested to know if they're building townhouses, that would make my version that, that it might not be safe for flooding and that kind of thing. And as well, just echo and everything with the road. The road is a terrible intersection there. Like, totally agree with everything they've said about the road. It definitely, there needs to be something done if we're gonna add extra people.
The engineer, he can address that if he addresses some issues.
Mr. Butler, you want to respond?
It's battle, but stormwater treatment, the county requires us to do 100-year stormwater attenuation and stormwater treatment. These townhouses have roof leaders on it, so everything's piped to a stormwater pond, so you really won't have anything coming off the roofs to the street. And there'll be a stormwater pond in the rear. It's not shown, but we'll have to design something.
And that will be outside of the wetlands as well. And townhouses are single-family residences, how the land is subdivided.
And we can put, the density is like 500 and some units, right?
Yeah, it's 10 units per acre.
But due to the wetlands, we're trying to cluster it up,
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Butler.
And then my one other question would be for issues with townhouses with the parking. Typically when you have clustered townhouses, there's not adequate parking. And so I'm wondering, are we going to make sure that there's provisions for adequate parking, or is Shelley Road just going to become parked full of cars and nobody's going to be able to get by, where it's going to be a safety issue with fire trucks and stuff? Because people have parties, people have Super Bowl parties, lots of cars come in and they park, and when you have townhouses, there's nowhere to park. And it's not, the lane's not equipped, doesn't have like side parking. And so I'm just kind of wondering how they're planning to do that with parking.
Mr. Battle?
By code, every unit has to have the adequate parking. And so, we can put the driveways longer off of Shelley Road to give more parking for each unit, but there's not a parking lot per se. I think code enforcement would not allow them to park on the road, right?
Board members, any questions of the speaker? Feinberg? Feinbeck? No, sorry I butchered your name.
Okay, I'll straighten it out. My name is Norman Feinberg. I live at 7725 Shelley Road. I've been there 22 years.
Please raise your right hand.
Excuse me?
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I've been there and done that. I built my own home there about 22 or 23 years ago. When I was there, I tried to get on city sewage. I understand this is not a sewage meeting. I was told if I wanted to bear the cost of getting a pipe run from Pine Forest Road to my house, which was about a half a mile, I could do that. I chose to get on the septic tank. So I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, that before occupancy, it would have to be, the sewage had to be in place. Am I correct so far? Okay. Second thing is, I wrote down a bunch of list of questions. Everybody's talking about getting onto Pine Forest Road. I'm thinking getting off of Pine Forest Road. Right now, when I try to get off of Pine Forest Road, with the new campground there, there's been many times that section by the boot store, I can't make a left turn. So either I gotta kind of cattywampus and wait on Pine Forest Road, which is ridiculous, or I gotta drive down towards the old Food World McDonald's and try to get in that way. So, and around 5 o'clock, it's very unique. And I suggest before the board really votes on this thing, they go around there around 5, 6 o'clock at night to check it out. Now, the road, now, again, like Mr. Giles, the fact that you've changed the parameters to 24 units, that knocks a big hole in it. That's a step in the right direction. The other question I have is the construction of the homes on the west side of the wetlands. You said there would be access from another road, is that correct? Okay, so I want to make sure I had that correct. My major concern is there's been several accidents on Pine Forest and Wild Lake. Well, there's also been some deaths, I mean D-E-A-T-S. I hate for any deaths to occur if the townhomes come in and the county engineers 5 years later, based on any accidents, determine there needs to be lights put in or whatever. So I'd like the board to consider that. Okay, there's the stormwater pond, the Holden Pond. I want to be sure I got that correct. That's in addition to the wetlands. Is that correct?
That would have to be built outside.
Outside of the wetlands, okay. And 24 units, is there one apartment to the unit? Or is a unit have 3 individual residents? Okay, so there's 24 units. Originally, I heard the number of 300 cars under the old plan. Does anybody have any idea how many vehicles we're talking about now? We don't know the answer to that. 24 units, each unit has 1.5 cars, that'd be 36 vehicles, approximately. Just quick math. So I just wanted the board to consider that. The safety issue, not only getting off of those areas, but getting into the area. I guess I'm done. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Any questions of the speaker, board members? No, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Langley?
My name is Joe Langley. I live at 8200 Shelley Road.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
I moved on Shelley Road after retirement in about the late 92, early 93. And I know that this meeting is about the development of the property as has been stated. However, when you consider development of the property, you've got to consider the access problems. Shelley Road is barely wide enough for 2 cars, and in a couple of areas, only 1 car can get through. When we moved in there, I have watched that road slowly deteriorate on the sides from water and rain wash. As someone once said before, it is V-shaped to try to direct the water. However, I have spent close to $20,000 having to repair my foundation, above ground foundation, to get it back up and leveled due to the rainwater washing off. Also, because cars are riding on the edge of the road, this is my opinion, I don't know, it's also destroying the sides of the road, causing big cracks and cave-ins on the side of the road. I have a gap from the street to my driveway about that big due to that. The access road to Pine Forest, either way you go, is very dangerous, and I would suggest that if the board feels it's necessary, maybe table this issue until you can look at this situation a little bit longer. And that's all I've got to say, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, board members? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hadron Giles.
My name is Hydron Giles. I live at 7801 Shelley Road. I've lived there since 1979.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
We have been fighting this road, and we don't mind development in our area. We're all just small people. I mean, some of us have an acre, some of us has 2.5 acres, 5 acres, and then there's several that have more than that. We're just a country road. As a matter of fact, at one point, one of your sheriffs told us that he wasn't even aware of that there was a road back there. It's just a beautiful place. We don't mind to have, we want our friends to sell that place. But we don't want concrete in there either. I mean, everybody's talked about the road, and that's fine. If you want to know more about it, one of your ladies, I believe her name is Catherine Smith, many years ago made already a statement about the road for some other property that wanted to move in there with commercial stuff and bigger things. So we are all retired people except, well, we just got 2 new couples in that have 5 kids each. I don't mind single homes. We really would love to have single homes with 1, 2, 3 acres around them. That would be perfect. But to have a townhouse, I drive around town and most of the townhouses look like trash houses eventually. So I just want you to consider that. And if possible, go out and look at it and try to imagine on that property 24 townhouses. And the other thing is, when did it become MDR? About 5 years ago, or as far as I know, every time we've gone, we were RR2, and now all of a sudden we are MDR. That property was agricultural. We had cows on there. So why are we all of a sudden MDR? Who changed it? None of us knew about it. So that's my question. Anybody else?
Thank you, ma'am. Board members, any questions of the speaker? Starla Franklin.
Starla Franklin. I live at 8310 Wild Lake Road up on the upper part. Our property adjoins to that place they're going to build 5 or 6 houses.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
So I have a question about the townhouses that are being built. Are those going to be affordable townhouses, or are they going to be more luxurious, townhomes? Does anyone know?
Mr. Battle, I'll
Simple
have to get you to come to a mic. We have to record you.
I'm just developing the lots, I'm not building the units, and we're negotiating with Ador Properties or D.R. Horton for the units. And they can look at what it would look like downtown, there's Hallmark Townhomes, it's a D.R. Horton product, newer stuff.
They're market rate, they're not affordable housing.
Okay, that's my question, is because if it's affordable housing, we know that eventually looks like low-income housing pretty quick. And we moved here from California 3 years ago trying to stay in a rural area, and we're not too happy that you're trying to put more people on a small square footage, and the mess they're trying to get in and out, and there's all that development on up I-10 and Pine Forest, which is already going to be a pain in the butt for all of us. And you're adding to the problem we've already got. And fixing that road's going to be 10 years down the road? That's hard for all of us. We're just a small community back there, and we like it. And we don't want a lot of people back in there. It's just, it doesn't fit the area at all. And like the people that live on the road, that's a cute little road. And I don't know how in the world people are going to get in and out of there. I really don't. And when I found out that's a Mennonite community, my husband, we thought, we're going to sell and move. We moved here to be in a rural area. And if that's what that's going to be, those townhouses are going to be built behind me, I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm glad it's kind of on the lower part, but I feel sorry for these people. They got to deal with it. And it's not fair to them. I mean, they've lived there for their whole life. I mean, just consider, drive back in there and see. Go in the morning, 7:30, and try to get in and out of that area. And go in the afternoon. We go nowhere from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock at night because we can't get in and out. So either fix the problem before you start putting more stuff down there and consider tabling it till later, or put just single-family homes in there. That would solve the problem. The townhouses is just going to make a mess.
Board members, any questions of the speaker?
I just like, may I comment? I think what you said, fix the traffic problem before the construction rather than after construction.
10 more of you signed against, but you did not desire to speak. Is there anyone who has changed their mind since you're here and would like to speak?
I just have a question.
You have a question?
Yeah, that's
I'll have to get you on the mic. State your name and address and be sworn in.
I'm Kim Hogg. I live at 7753 Shelley Road.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
I just have a question. If this were to be pushed through, and what is it, 24 units now, can they come back later and add more?
The original plan was 87.
So what they're requesting is 24 units as a townhouse subdivision. Townhouses are single-family residential use. If they wanted to come through and re-subdivide in the future, that would be a totally separate process. What they're requesting is the land use approval to subdivide for 24 townhouse single-family units.
Drew, what is the, if you know, what's the approximate acreage we're talking about?
Did you fill out one of these, sir?
The overall acreage is 55, I think, of the overall parcel.
As far as the acreage for this development, how much land will it take up? Do you know?
I don't have a plan detailing exactly how much of that parcel would be split out for this.
Mr. Battle, by chance, would you know?
It's probably maybe 2 acres.
That front portion would probably be 2 acres or so.
So essentially what we're talking about is approximately 2 acres out of what?
58.
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
58.
I'm sorry, sir?
5/8.
Oh, so we're talking about 2 acres out of 58 acres, is that right?
55 and a half.
Yes.
Okay, and, so assuming that there are 2 residents to each home, then that's a little less than 50 people, right? I know that's just rough math, but that would work out to something like that.
Yes. Yes.
As far as the number of individuals. Thank you, sir.
Sir, did you decide you'd like to speak? Come to the mic and identify yourself and be sworn.
My name is Mike Hanson, 7905 Shelley Road.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
So my question is, they're going to spend $1 million to buy some property for 24 townhomes. They're going to put the townhomes in there, and then they're going to later proceed to build other things once they get in there. That's what they're going to do. This is just a scam to drop that from the 84 townhomes. 65 homes were supposed to be built in the back. And all that just changed this week. That's a scam.
Board members, any questions of the speaker? Seeing none.
87 townhouses.
Yes, sir?
So I filled out one of those blue forms to speak. Have you gone through everybody's name yet?
Did you fill one out? Is
Yes,
that
sir,
the
did.
question? I don't know.
The thing where it said that I wanted to speak.
You want to speak?
Please.
Oh, sure.
My name is Alan Zatelski. I live at 8317 Wild Lake Road, Pensacola, Florida.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
My concern is that this area right now is zone medium density residential. If you read over here on the forms, it says townhouses are not permitted uses of the district. That's part of your zoning requirements. That's under the conditional uses. My concern is that this would be setting a precedent for the rest of the property, because my house is in the upper left-hand corner over there, where incidentally, our deed restrictions in Wild Lake Estates where I live is a minimum acreage of ½ acre per lot. Having this aside of me, setting a precedent for townhomes, that is my major concern. I don't want to see something happen down the road. I think if it's minimum density residential, that should exclude townhomes. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Board members, any questions of the speaker? Thank you, sir. Would the applicant like to give a summary?
Sure, thank you very much. So as it's been stated, subdivision is already allowed on this property. If the applicant wanted to come in right now and on the 55 acres, put 10 dwelling units per acre for a total of 550 single-family residences, that would be 550 more homes, and we wouldn't be here before the board requesting any additional approval. The only reason that we have to have the conditional use approval is because of the structure of the townhomes, the way they're constructed and subdivided. The code requires that that's a conditional use. The code says that if we've met all the criteria, then the conditional use is a permitted use, just as if we didn't have to be here. We purport that our presentation has met the criteria. Staff agrees with that, and the staff's expert findings of fact meet the criteria. As far as some of the comments of the neighbors, I know there was a comment about wanting up to 3 acres per house. Well, right now you could have 10 homes per acre. So having this board require that there be 3 acres per house, I mean, that's not even conducive with the current zoning. The current zoning would allow up to 10 dwelling units per acre. The change in plans, as testified to by the expert engineer, initially it was not understood the extent of the wetlands. Having looked at it more closely after the initial submittal, they've determined that it's not feasible to put the initial 87 homes in the single-family residences. The only ask is for 24, a total maximum of 24 townhomes along Shelley Road. Escambia County doesn't have traffic concurrency. If the individuals complaining about the roadway want traffic concurrency, that's something they can address with the Board of County Commissioners. That's not appropriate at this stage. If there are existing problems with that roadway, that's again something to be addressed with the Board of County Commissioners. What this board looks at is whether or not we've met the access criteria outlined in the code. Staff's findings are that we have. The applicant went through the DRC process. Those traffic comments are, and all the comments, including the ECUA comments, are included in our submittal, which this board has received, showing that we've met the criteria of the code and are entitled to the 24 dwelling units. Now, the submittal does say that there are uses on Shelley Road of an RV park and a storage facility. That is accurate. There are in these, and that's in the criteria A, general compatibility section. It doesn't necessarily say that the RV park or storage facility has the same access, but the submittal does outline the proposed access being off Shelley Road and that it meets the criteria. We would just ask you to keep in mind the development rights of the applicant. Again, as it stands, they could come in and put 550 single-family homes. Now, that's not realistic with the wetlands and other considerations, so you wouldn't get that density, but you would certainly get a lot more density than 24 units along the front. As far as stormwater, drainage, all of those concerns, that will all be dealt with at the DRC process, but the code requires that the stormwater impacts of this property not affect the surrounding properties, and the applicant will meet all the criteria of the Land Development Code and the Design Standards Manual through the DRC process at the time of submission of the plat. We're happy to take any questions. You know, if traffic improvements are required, those would be dealt with again at the time of the DRC process. All we're asking for here today is approval to have the structures, instead of being the single-family dwelling, for them to be townhomes. Otherwise, the use is permitted in the district by right.
Thank you very much. Board members, any questions of the applicant?
I have a question. May I come up?
I can't hear. Who does? Did someone want to speak?
Yes, I have a follow-up question. Based on what that lady said, I currently have 1.44 acres. According to what she said, could I come to the board, say I want to destroy my house and put in 14 homes on my 1.44 acres? Would the board consider that? I'm just curious. Do you understand my question?
Yes, sir, we do understand your question. And that's something that this board will not, don't have the authority to address. I do, my staff will. If that's the case, we will have to work with you and see with that, because there's other provisions when it comes to that. So this board do not have the right to address that particular question.
And you're with?
I am over this entire section.
Okay, what is your office called, sir?
Development Services of Escambia County. I'd be glad to talk to. After this meeting, anybody want to talk to me, this is my building. I'd be glad to talk to anybody. Yes, sir.
I got it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm done.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Board members, any questions of staff or applicant?
I have a question for staff.
Yes, sir.
Did I understand that this development would be connected to city sewer?
ECUA.
I'm sorry, say again?
ECUA sewer.
Okay. Would that improvement be available to residences that are already there for connection to that system, or would that be a separate system?
That would be a question for ECUA.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So the plan is the hotel across the street is installing sewer all the way up to Wild Lake and back over to 8 Mile Creek. We would extend it down to our development and everybody could use it. It would be public. So yes, the residents would be able to use it.
Thank you.
Board members, any other questions?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I have a question.
You have a question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, come to the mic and identify yourself. Did you fill out a blue form?
Yes, I said I didn't
Okay.
want to speak, but I have a question. My name is Yubiko Dubose, and I live in 7610 Shady Road.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
I live on the dead end of the Shady Road since 1994. And I understand the whole situation in Pensacola's out of the property, and especially downtown, we don't have no more place to expand. And then I like town to be grow and nicely. Navy Federal came in, they bring up to the nice wide road of 9 miles, and it's very good. And we live in an isolated area just off of those busy area, and we might be spoiled. I understand that. And we have the 55, whatever the acres right next to us, which is selling for millions and millions of dollars. And that's the simply happened, and it's gonna be developed. We totally understand. Only problem is, right now what we're hearing is give them permission for $1 million property for 25 townhouses, which is everything meets the criteria, whatever the lady said meets. Okay, let's go ahead and do. And then after that, it's total density. I might be understand wrong, but she said that density would be like a 500 some residents. What is it?
Again, this board will be glad to explain that to you. I think.
Okay,
Yes,
I
yes,
just-
I'll be glad to explain that
Okay.
to you what on that stage.
That's okay.
I'll be glad to.
Thank you. But anyway, it's gonna be high density subdivision that they have it in the whole pictures. Because nobody pay for $1 million just to build the 25 townhouses. It doesn't add up together. And then if it's gonna be future, right, subdivision's gonna build, that's fine. But if before give them permission to start, look at around the surrounding area to improve before bringing the large project. Like a Navy Federal did, I'm pretty sure that's what you're supposed to do, pay for the impact fee or whatever. But without skipping those, and just said, okay, fine, it's only 25 townhouses, go ahead. Oh, no, what, like a 2 car each would be 30 cars kind of coming added onto our road. But if you look at, that is a hospitality corner, right next to Tom Summer is building hotels right now. I don't know if you ever been there. We have 14 hotels, and then right close from that area, I have 2 hotels with Ruby Tuesday. I don't see how they can come off the street. And that's what we are facing. Our concern is safety. That's my bottom line.
Thank you. Board members, any questions of the speaker? Board members, any question of staff? Board members, any question of applicant? The chair will now entertain a motion regarding this item. In your motion, please state whether or not you adopt the staff's findings of fact. If for any reason you do not accept staff's findings of fact, please go through all the criteria and address each one specifically as why you do not concur with staff's findings. Do we have a motion?
I move we accept staff recommendation.
We have a motion by Randy that we accept staff's findings of fact. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Marty. Any discussion? Those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Those opposed? Tie 2-2, motion fails. That's it?
That's the last item. Next meeting is March 16th. Do we already have something? So for March, we do have a conditional use and a variance. One of each. Two cases.
I just wanted to advise the board that the appeal, there was a petition for writ of cert filed regarding the Silver Shore conditional use. It was filed by Mr. Gillette and Ms. Shepherd. The court has denied the petition, and I'm preparing the order for the court to consider. So that appeal has now been resolved. The petition was denied, so the decision is upheld. Yes.
Thank you.
I don't recall that one. Just quickly, what was that?
It was for an accessory structure on waterfront property. There was a representative who came to speak on behalf of the applicant. His name was, Drew, do you remember his name? Steve Grimes?
I'm sorry, we can't hear. The meeting's still in progress.
The gentleman's name was Steve Grimes, and he was presented a sketch, I believe, of a metal building that was going to be built on Silver Shore Drive. The property owner's name was Waters.
Okay.
And it was, because it was a waterfront property, it could be in the, what you would call the front yard, essentially. Am I remembering that correctly, Drew? It's been a long time.
Correct. The combined properties have multiple frontages, but it is a conditional use to have an accessory dwelling in the front yard of a waterfront lot. The code allows for that option simply because there may not be room in the back for an accessory dwelling or structure. So that's what got the whole ball rolling.
And we rejected that?
No, the conditional use was approved unanimously by the board.
Okay.
And
The appeal was by?
it was by two neighbors who came. One spoke, Mr. Gillette. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, Gallet. And there were three other men who spoke, members of the public, during the hearing. And ultimately, the conditional use was granted. So there is a companion case that's pending, and that has not been resolved. But the BOA's decision was upheld.
Okay.
Is this companion case the same, dealing with the same set of facts?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. This is someone
different
else, another
grounds.
plaintiff, another.
No, I believe it's the same people who are challenging. But it's on different grounds. It has nothing to do with the BOA's decision that was,
Oh, okay.
so.
Is that the only court case that we've got now?
No, there is also still one pending regarding the beach access number 4 that was challenged by a neighboring condominium association, Seafarer. That is still pending. We have both briefed it. Oral argument was not requested, and so we're just waiting for the court's decision.
Well,
That was,
if I
that was the conditional use at the very beginning, not the later appeal.
Right.
If I understand, the project's been almost completed.
I don't know the status of the project, but I know it's underway.
Yes, the project is almost at the complete stage.
Jeez. Okay.
And the other thing that was outstanding, the A-plus storage. So that action was dropped by Coast Keeper, Emerald Coast Keeper.
But that was a different type of appeal. That wasn't a petition for writ of cert challenging your decision, so.
It all wraps together.
Yes, it does, it does. So it's the only outstanding petition for writ of cert challenging your decision is the Seafarer case.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Sure.
A quick question. When y'all voted not to have it done? Not to do it?
It was 2-2.
2-2, and you
So
two
the
voted
motion
for it?
dies.
The proposition
And you've never
fails
been the
on a
road?
tie.
You've never been on the road to see or anything, you voted to have this done? I'm just trying to figure out how you come to that conclusion.
I'll gladly tell you that I see the townhouse and single family as a distinction without use. And all of this conversation has to do with other boards, other processes, not what we're doing here today.
Okay.
So,
But you don't see where they're gonna spend $1 million on this property for 24 townhomes and then not add to it later?
It's my understanding that in a 2-2 tie, the proposition fails. So therefore,
So
the
when someone
motion-
comes to this board, they're seeking an affirmative vote on their request. A tie is not an affirmative vote, so it's a denial.
And when one dies, when one fails, that's not to say that someone else can't make a motion, another motion. Or the same could not, could amend their motion. But there wasn't another motion. So no action.
So therefore, the conditional use wasn't approved, right? Am I right in that? The conditional use wasn't approved, is that correct? Yeah, it was not. Okay. I thought that was. I thought that's what happened. Tail end Charlie.
No further items? Anybody have anything? If not, no objection, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Can I get a few minutes later?